Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Brewing E-commerce. And I have felt underqualified, non-suitable, rather like a dumb person on stage quite often. But today, I am with someone who's going to make me feel really like that because I have no clue about his industry, no clue of his expertise. But I'm here to learn a lot more. So, thank you, Paul, and really excited to have you.
Hey Shweetang, how you doing? Nice to be on.
I'm good, Paul. Thank you. Appreciate your time. And, for everybody listening, guys, I heard Paul at an event recently, and the way I heard his story and understood it was really, really impressive because one thing I struggle in e commerce is founders launching a brand or a product and struggling to find niche in the market, right? And then I did my little bit of sneaking around on Paul's profile, his work, and I saw like vast experience of yours, and which I think is culminated into what he's doing right now. So I'm really excited, Paul. You're going to be questioned a lot on a lot of things, so buckle up. Let's start from the beginning, right? How was your journey towards the start of your professional career, right? What were your aspirations? How did you really think? I always could say that you're always a sport oriented guy. Is that true?
100%. I literally played. I think I represented the school in every single sport that we possibly had at the time. So it didn't matter whether it was football and rugby and volleyball and cricket and cross country. And I was never a great swimmer, but apart from that, absolutely loved sport, loved watching it, loved participating in it. Used to scribble in my little workbook at
Okay.
school. PJ Sports. So I'm Paul John. It was PJS. Mum still got the workbooks, and it was
Yeah.
PJ Sports. And I was going to open a sports shop, and yeah, I'm just completely consumed by sport.
Awesome. And then you started off your career working for other companies where you were in like the sporting goods trading, and then you were also doing marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I got really lucky. I guess maybe made my own luck. So managed to. The first role that I got was working for Head. Now Head are one of the world's biggest racket sports brands, but also one of the world's biggest ski brands. Both of those sports I participate in. So imagine me, a 24-year-old, joining this company
Yeah.
in a situation where I was meeting, and not only was I meeting some of my idols, Andre Agassi and the Bjorn Borgs and Goran Ivanisevics, I was actually hitting tennis balls against some of these guys.
Wow.
So that was incredible. The same on the ski side. I didn't have ski heroes in the way that I had tennis heroes. I played county tennis as a kid as well as county athletics. So tennis was one of my sports. So meeting these heroes was just amazing. So I had an incredible 5 6 years working for Head and worked my way up through from a marketing executive right through marketing manager right through ended up running the both the racket sports and the winter sports divisions within the UK. So yeah, absolutely loved my time there.
And this is a fairly young age. I think such an impressionable age, but kind of cast the stone for your entire career moving forward, right?
I was really lucky. My first boss basically said, "Look, there's the deep end. Go and jump in it." And I just relished it, and I did jump in it. And luckily, I swam, and I managed to keep my head above water. And he just kept giving me more and more challenges. And then actually, he left within the first 18 months, 2 years. So the
So
challenge then was, okay, step into that role. Well, as you
yeah.
say, I was a young guy with a load of
Yeah.
ambition, but didn't have the knowledge. So again, it was a baptism of fire to just get in there and learn, and use my initiative and use the knowledge that I had generally in sport to try and get on. And I was lucky I managed to do that.
So like the perfect combination of go and work for your passion, and it's never really work, but you kind of enjoy it, and you've lived through that in that sense, right, Paul?
Sri Tank, I haven't worked for 30 years. Yeah,
You-
I've taught sport for 30 years. My every single conversation that I have within my daily job, talking to customers, the opening gambit is, did you watch whatever last night,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
football or the tennis or whatever it was? So that 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 sports conversation has followed me through my career. Again, incredibly lucky
yeah,
to have
and
that, because it becomes, it's your passion,
yeah,
not necessarily your job.
yeah, and then it'll flow so nicely. I can completely understand. Because looking at the pan of career and different profile that you have, I think you're very rightly putting it that you've lived through it, right?
Totally.
Yeah, but then there's this interesting twist I see in about year 2000, which is you were director of e-commerce for a company.
Yeah.
Year
So
2000,
I
where
know.
e-commerce didn't even exist as a concept in the medieval age, I would say.
So that part of the journey is, and there's been lots of books written about the dot-com boom and bust and the bubble, and lots of, the boo.coms and the last minute.coms that got away with it, and all these businesses. And yeah, so in 1999, I got approached by a guy that I kind of knew, who was putting together a management team from the sports trade. So him, myself, and another guy. So three of us from the sports trade. We hooked up with two guys, two 25-year-old guys who were recently graduated from UMIST in Manchester, computer engineers, computer science engineers, grads. They had gone to the marketplace and raised 25 million quid on,
Wow.
on AIM. How did they raise 25 million quid? They'd raised 25 million quid because the business model that they presented to the market was, hey, listen, and this is 1999. Look, it costs about 150 grand to build a website. So, we're going to scale this business
Mhm.
and sell lots of websites for 150 grand. So they raised this money and they started building websites, but also more importantly, they started investing in other businesses.
Mhm.
And they invested in us as a management team, and we launched sweatband.com, which was the UK's first multi-sport website. So
Wow.
again, at a time where the traditionalists are going, nobody's going to buy a tennis racket online. They want to pick it up and
Yeah, yeah,
feel,
feel the
and
thing and
particularly a cricket bat. Nobody's going to pick up a cricket bat and buy it
yeah,
online because they want to feel the weight and look at the bat and the whole thing. So there's all these barriers. Nobody's going to part with money online. Nobody's going to buy a treadmill, whatever it was. And we grew really, really rapidly in that first year. We were over seven figures within the first 10 months of that first year, and pushed through a million very quickly, and kept on growing.
wow.
And their other 20 odd investments that they'd made, the vast majority of those were in content. So they had I think, websites like salesale.com that were big in the sailing community. I think there was a rugby website. There was a number of different content driven
Mm.
sites.
Sure.
Nobody had a
Yes.
clue
Yeah.
how to monetize
Yes.
content in 1999, 2000. Not a clue. So you roll forward to the end of 2000, early 2001, every single one of their investments had fallen over, run out of money. They were running out of money because guess what? People started to realize, you know what? It doesn't cost 150 grand to build a
Right.
website. I can get it done over here cheaper. And therefore, and the company was called IBG, Internet Business Group. We were the sort of the jewel in the crown that had gone from zero to nothing. So we merged those two businesses together, not least to give them some run rate, some cash flow.
Sure.
And I became commercial director of IBG. And Sweatband went from strength to strength. But also, again, back in the day, it was the infancy of affiliate marketing. So we developed a business called Affiliate Future, one of the first affiliate marketing businesses back in 2000, 2001. And that grew even quicker. That grew to 16 million within 3 or 4 years. So we had this amazing business right in the middle of the dot-com boom, and all the stuff you read. I mean, we had these offices opposite Liverpool Street Station, so real high end,
Fair.
middle of London,
Yeah.
expensive office space, um, with you know masseurs coming in and pinball tables in the corner and takeaway foods going in. All this stuff,
Yeah.
because the vast majority of the people in the business were in their early 20s and enjoying the ride and spending the
Yeah.
money.
Wow.
So it's a crazy, crazy time. Um, I'm not sure whether I said this on stage the other day, but interestingly, we're 25 years on, and you know what? We're still in some areas trying to solve some of the same issues that we were trying to solve 25 years ago. Some of the same
Yeah.
dialogue, it's still happening 25 years later. So in some
Wow.
respects, e-commerce, of course, progressed hugely,
Sure.
but in other respects, the core issues: how do you increase conversion rates? How do
Yeah.
we get engagement?
Yeah.
How do we get stickiness? Get
Absolutely.
people to stay on the website
Yeah.
for longer? How do we keep our customers? None of these problems have gone away from what it was back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. A lot of what you're saying is something like a Disneyland situation. I can't imagine how they would have been. But again,
I know, and I don't even look old enough, right?
you don't absolutely at all, Paul. But I'm saying that more from the kind of experience that you have under your belt, and trying to do this when nobody could have kind of imagined this. Funny enough, right? I was talking to a young lady in my company the other day, and we were trying to work on a creative, and we were trying to compare, saying, how life used to be 10 years back and how it is now.
Yeah.
And I was telling her that, can we compare a modem, like a dial-up modem, with a chat GPT prompt? And the lady's like, sorry, what? And, and I'm like, don't you know what dial-up modem is? That I
Yeah.
want to, I was tempted enough to make that noise to kind of tell her. And then she Googled it and she's like, wow, what was this kind of a thing? So I felt a little old there, but I'm feeling nice now, Paul. I have to say that. But doing this in 2000, when uh, the world would have been a very different era, right? But that's one side of it. And second, what you say is extremely interesting, that some of the fundamental pillars and the problems of that are still the same, and people
Yeah.
still trying to say that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that the whole online experience is about how closely you can mimic a retail experience?
I think that's a great question, because then again I go back to the challenge that I alluded to back in 1999, where the vast majority of sports equipment, not necessarily fashion, but fashion apparel and footwear is included in this, but the vast majority of sports equipment, the mind of the end consumer was that they wanted to go in and pick up that piece of sports equipment,
Yeah,
try it on, play with it, do whatever they need to do with it.
fair.
So ecom can't replicate that. There's no way you can do that. What's interesting is the pathway that a number of ecom brands are treading at the moment is almost recognizing that and building a really, really strong ecom business,
Yeah,
but actually then coming back to the high street
yeah,
to give the end user that touchy feely experience that
yeah,
there's no way they can have online. So that for me is a really interesting journey. That 25 years ago it was going the other way. High street's dead. That's no good. Everybody's going to be online. We'll try and do everything that we can. And there
mm,
were businesses trying to replicate it. Boo.com had amazing technology, 3D
mm,
technology, all this sort of stuff.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
on dial up, the page took 30 seconds
yeah,
to load.
yeah.
Never mind trying to spin a model, the 3D model. So
Doesn't work.
ecom can't replicate it. Is it a journey back to bringing the consumer in to then actually ultimately end up on the high street? Maybe a lot of brands are playing that and doing it very well.
Yeah, and I think again the post-COVID era is has been a lot confusing for all of us, to say the least. But um, there's this trend that everybody is realizing: you have to be omni-channel and omnipresent, right?
Yeah.
Because the attribution models are so screwed up in that respect, that today your consumer is looking at you at TikTok and looking at you, at the red bus and on Oxford Street, and also at a Waitrose, whatever, and that kind of thing. And I never thought it in this way, Paul, but now that you're saying it, um, it's actually emerging in a very different way. But it's a combination of the best sides of both the worlds together.
But it's
Um,
always been, it's multiple touch points. which has always been a key pillar of key marketing strategy. Multiple touch points. Where does the consumer touch the brand? And at all the points where the consumer touches the brand, the difference is, can we now transact with that consumer where they touch the brand? So you look at what's happening in social, we're touching the consumer with social.
Yeah.
If you look at where TikTok Shops is heading versus where Douyin in China, obviously ByteDance is a Chinese operation of TikTok, if you like, shopping and everything within that ecosystem happens. So TikTok Shops is trying to push the forefront of that here. So social becomes a social only shopping experience, where as opposed to just a social experience. So that's a classic where the touch point is changing. The high street we talked about, the touch point is changing. Ecom, the touch point is changing. So all of these places where historically it was just, they were just marketing touch points, are now becoming transactional. And that's the really interesting play as to how that sort of progresses, really.
Wow. Yeah, quite insightful. I think looking at things from your lens are giving me different perspectives as well. I'm going to talk to my team about how do we do conversion optimization in better ways right tomorrow morning. So thank you, Paul, for that. Uh, and let me go down on your own company, your own
Yeah.
startup, which is not a startup now, which is a scale business, and which is a very innovative product, in my opinion. I'd like to know a little bit more about, how everything conspired to bring Glove Glue together.
Yeah, man. I suppose, what are we? We're 16 minutes in, and I haven't even told your listeners what I do. They're probably thinking, "What is this GloveGlu that I see on the screen?" So, um, it started from a really really simple idea that, if you spend £150 on a pair of goalkeeping gloves, they're super grippy. The palm is made of latex. The latex is super grippy, but the latex is very soft and doesn't last very long. If you spend £10 on a pair of goalkeeping gloves, the latex is quite hard and therefore lasts quite a long time, but there's very little grip. So I had this idea, and it was a sliding doors moment. It was one of those things, that a light bulb moment, that people go, yeah, that never happens in real
Yeah,
life. It only
yeah,
happens in the movies or in a book. Right, it happened to me. I can tell you where I was, a place called Wick Hill between Burford and Stow-on-the-Wold, driving with a friend of mine, just spitballing ideas, and it literally, I think I've got it. Why isn't there a spray that you can spray on different levels of goalkeeping gloves to make them grippy? Um, and that was back in 2011, after um, spending 8 9 months developing the formula with a chemist friend of mine. Got to the point where, hey, I think we've cracked this. This is great. One big problem: the product was highly flammable. So, okay, we need to go back to the drawing board. We can't ship this globally if it's highly flammable. We'll never get it on any vessel, on the aeroplane, anything. So by 2012, we launched GloveGlu as a standalone product, um, a spray to make your goalkeeping gloves grippy. And since that time, we've developed and we've evolved and we've created a category that didn't exist before in the niche of football, soccer, goalkeeping globally. And that category is goalkeeping glove care. And it's products to make your gloves grippy, products to stop them smelling, products to keep them clean. So we're in a niche, but hey, football, soccer is a global sport. And therefore,
yeah,
the market is still an exciting and attractive marketplace. And the exciting thing that's happened in the last 5 7 years, and is continuing to happen, is our customer base is doubling, because suddenly women and girls are playing football.
yeah. Wow.
So the marketplace
Yeah,
is really quite buoyant. It's really quite interesting, and we've created this niche. We are now that we're the classic category king now. We're the innovators. We're driving it forward. We, in inverted commas, own the category. We've got competitors starting to come in, and in fact, I welcome them, because those competitors are actually
yeah,
educating the end consumer,
absolutely.
because the end consumer doesn't realize
Yeah,
there is such a thing as a spray to make your goalkeeping gloves grippy. So it's a really exciting space. We're scaling at a crazy pace at the moment. And I'll give you one little image. I'm sitting at home, just down the corridor. My wife and I, 12 years ago, used to sit around the kitchen table, pouring this sticky liquid
Yeah.
into bottles, screwing the lid on, putting the label on. Each bottle probably took 2 to 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we now sell one GloveGlu product around the world every 2 minutes and 27 seconds.
Wow, that is
So
insane.
that's some journey that we continue to go on. But when you sit back and think about that, that's a journey.
That's not a journey. That's like a rocket ship on its way up and up.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations to say the least, Paul.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
it's not easy. Um, I One of the hardest things to achieve is simplicity, right? And the guy who doesn't understand a lot of football and soccer, etc., if I was able to understand the product in a sentence, uh, I can't even imagine to understand the kind of things you would have gone behind to make it sound, achieve that simple. Right? Um, but tell me this: when you started, and I'm going to compare it a little bit with my journey on, at Kui, and what I hear around is I've always heard this from people that creating a new category is very scary. It requires that education, which requires time, which requires money, and all the things are extremely scarce, right? Um, how was the feeling for you, or did you also experience something similar when you went about this?
I was probably quite lucky, and the pathway that I took was, let's call it the side gig category. So my core business at that time was working with branded clients, typically based in Europe,
Mm,
and I had and representing those clients in the UK and Ireland. So I had a team of 6 sales agents on the road, and customer care, and a credit control team based in the UK. And I would bring the products in from, well, in fact, my clients in Europe would ship products from their central warehouse into UK sports shops. So I
mm,
was the front end sales and marketing operation. They were the back end warehouse and dispatch and invoice operation, and we'd take the sales and collect the money. So in those early days of GloveGlu, I could de-risk it to some extent because I had some revenue coming in over here. I had a
mm,
really nice business happening over here,
mm,
so I could gently build it. I didn't have to make that leap of faith. I didn't have to go in and quit my job and go for it. And I think that's still relevant today.
mm,
If you've got an idea, there's plenty of time in the day to do your 9 to 5 and still work on other things.
mm.
And it wasn't until 2019, 2020, where I literally divested myself of all the interests, all these other interests, and went full time with GloveGlu. And it's since that time, working 100% on the brand, that we've really, really scaled. But we can joke about it. We're 12, 13 years in. We're 12, 13 year overnight success, because the reality is, for 8 or 9, 10 years nearly, we were building
Yeah,
it slowly as a
yeah,
side gig. So, as I say, my journey to building that category perhaps wasn't as scary as somebody going, do you know what, I'm just going to go for this.
yeah, yeah,
It was still quite scary in 2020, because there was still an element of, I'm going to go for this
yeah,
and remortgage the house, and the kids are in school, and
yeah,
it's still a risk. But I think by that stage, I'd had enough time in the industry to believe that I had the skills to build a global business and a global sporting goods brand, because I'd done it, not necessarily globally, but I'd worked with a lot of big sports brands, from Adidas down to Head, we talked about, and All Sport as a goalkeeping brand, and lots of other
yeah,
different brands.
yeah.
So that was it scary for me? Yeah. Did I think about it? No. I just, you've got
When
to be completely focused,
Yeah,
100% committed, and go for it. I think if you're 20, 21, the risk is way less. I was
yeah,
50 when I decided to go all in 2020, and
yeah,
really go for it.
mm,
It's harder when you've got mortgage to pay, and, as I say, looking after two teenage kids, and
yeah,
wife, and so on and so forth.
yeah. No, I can know. I understand that. I tried to do this like about a year. Having a side hustle job, trying to pay things, etc. And then I realized that no, it's not working out. And I had that moment, no, no, I need to just go for it and kind of do it, right. And the way of it that you're sounding, Paul, you've seen that, yes, you had that moment when you realize that, yes, now I'm comfortable enough to kind of jump in the pool. But also that since the time you've come in, you can see the exponential growth in the business, because now your attention is kind of really delivering all the fruits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. And something again, I really liked the way you were saying that, and not a lot of people think of it in that way, is that you really appreciate competitors creeping up in the category. What's your kind of take on that, and why would you say that?
I go out of my way to build relationships with my competitors. Why? At the end of the day, we're all in the same space. We're all trying to build our businesses. There are plenty of end consumers. We're all doing things differently, but
Hmm.
fundamentally, we're all on the same journey.
Yeah.
So we're not going to share secrets with each other,
Yeah.
but why can't we enjoy that journey together? Yeah, I love sitting and having lunch or a coffee or a chat with my competitors
Hmm.
because they're going through the same issues that we've got.
Yeah.
That pain in the ass customer who, God, the buyers are, yeah, he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, gee,
Yeah.
did you see? Oh, I saw him last week. So, yeah, nobody else knows that unless they're also going in and seeing that same buyer and having the same issues. So you take a bit of comfort from that. That okay, maybe it's not just me. Then maybe he doesn't like anybody, and maybe you all have the same struggles.
Yeah.
Um, and also you never know where it's going to take you. You never know how your paths are going to cross, and particularly people tend to say in my industry a long, long time. So where are these guys going to be? Where am I going to be in 5 years, 10 years time? Um, so I, we've all got the same end game. I don't see that I need to be. I don't see that there can't be any love between us. I know it sounds a little bit corny. I've got to say, it probably comes with age. My attitude would have been and certainly was very different 15 years ago,
Sure.
and I wouldn't have been prepared to share in the same way that I do now.
Yeah.
And I've probably, if people reach out for help, and again, this is people within my industry and even competitors, I probably either wouldn't have done it or would have tried to charge in some way
Yeah.
to do it. So age definitely comes into it to some extent, but yeah, why wouldn't one embrace one's competitors? As I said, we're all on the same journey. We're all in the same space.
Yeah. Age, you mean maturity, but not everybody ages with maturity. So
True. Yeah. It sounds again. It sounds a bit corny. Maybe it's some sort
yeah,
of enlightenment that you just
I
realise that,
agree. Yeah.
and when you actually do it, yeah, it's a nice feeling. It's a nice
I
feeling.
love it. Absolutely. I think it just comes out the way you're saying. It just feels nice, right?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally.
yeah. Like, I'm also a firm believer of the world is round kind of thing, Paul. It always comes back. And funny enough, I had a call with somebody today. In my previous life, that guy was really not very kind to me, and it was a whole structure that somehow he didn't really whatever entertain me. Let's put it nicely that way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
today the shoes were very different, and that person reached out for help, and I'm like, all right. I spoke to them, had a call and everything, and at the end of it, I still, while hanging up, I just said that, in case I can help with anything else, just let me know. And anything, just felt nice. So I kind of know what you're saying, and that's a very nice feeling. Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
um so the business has grown.
Hmm.
The market has shown immense potential. Their competition creeping up. And I think overall it really helps that people get educated, because there are multiple people trying to solve a same problem in different ways, in nooks and corners, right? So um, how do you see this category or the kind of products that you're working on getting evolved in the next 5 years or so?
The interesting evolution of the business is something I wouldn't have seen 3, 4 years ago, and that's the fact that we started off very much in a niche. Of course, we did. I've explained the business that we're in, and therefore our core customers, on the one hand, was e-com end consumers, but from a wholesale and B2B perspective, football specialty stores,
Mm-hmm.
football goalkeeper stores, of which there are online football goalkeeper stores. There's one or two um, bricks and mortar football goalkeeper stores, very few around the world. There's a number of soccer specialty dealers in different markets, different countries around the world. I wouldn't have envisaged that the more generalist sports retailer, sports multiple,
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't tend to have and carry a wide and deep range of goalkeeping gloves, I wouldn't have envisaged that those guys would necessarily be a core target for us for business development.
Right.
What's happened is during COVID, a lot of these guys had a great time.
Mm.
We were all out. We were all being active. We were all buying sporting goods. We wanted to do stuff. Even if we couldn't do it collectively as a team, we were still doing it in the back garden. We were kicking a football in the back garden. We were diving around in the goal with our goalkeeping gloves. We were doing stuff. So a lot of these sports multiples saw a big growth in business during COVID.
Mm.
They came off the back of COVID expecting those growth cycles to continue, as did a number of the brands.
Mm.
So what happened then in 21 and into 22 was that both the brands and the retailers became overstocked. And a lot of those overstocks were in apparel and footwear, and let's call it the fashion end of the marketplace, where the cycles change quite rapidly. So Nike, Adidas might introduce a new product range every 12 weeks. So it might be the new pink Ronaldo boot, and then in 12 weeks' time, it's the orange one, and then it's the grey one, and then it's the black one, and so on and so forth. So their intake margins were very good, but their exit margins were not great. So a lot of those multiples have recognized they need a deeper base of accessory-based products where they're not beholden to fashion cycles, they're not beholden to color cycles, the margin's steady throughout the year, and it's really all about replenishment. And it's really all about conversion rates. So what these sports multiples have recognized is kind of where the e-com guys are very good. How can they increase their upsell, cross-sell, and checkout candy? Sweets around the till.
Yeah.
They were never great at it.
Yeah.
So suddenly in my category, even though their goalkeeping glove offer isn't great, how do we get more bang from the
Yeah.
end consumer?
Yeah.
How do we upsell? What products, if they're buying a pair of goalkeeping gloves, even if they're only spending 15, 20 quid,
Yeah.
what else might they buy? Well,
Nice.
hey, guess what? We're probably the only brand in that space. And it is a numbers game because
Yeah.
it might be 2 in 3, 2 in 10, 3 in 10, 4 in 10 are going to buy a GloveGlu product.
Yeah.
So suddenly the evolution for us is the big box change. So it might be Rebel Sports in Australia with
Yeah.
190 stores, or Dick's Sports in the US with 900
Yeah.
stores, or Ochsner Sports in Switzerland with 80 stores, or XXL in the Scandi countries with
Wow.
30 stores, etc., etc. All of these guys are coming to us looking for that solution that is, look, they just give us some simple upsell, cross-sell products.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Replen, margin, keep selling them. Doesn't change very often. And that's the really interesting play because
Wow.
these guys are big beasts, and the footfall in these guys into these
Are
guys is
insane.
huge.
Yeah.
So that play is interesting. And the other play, clearly, and this is not just in my industry and with my brand, is the Amazon, the marketplace play.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the end, our appetite for getting goods next day, and in some instances, particularly in the US, same day,
Yeah.
we're hungry for it, and therefore the eyeballs on Amazon, and using Amazon as a search
Mm.
engine rather than Google, we
Mm.
all know where those trends are headed.
Mm.
So a combination of those two factors, as well as our own e-com business growing on the back of our socials, we've got over 1 million followers across our social
Yeah.
channels. So all of those elements are continuing to grow independently to drive the business forward for us.
Wow.
So we had a business plan back in 2018 that was to take this grippy spray and roll it into different glove wearing sports. We don't need to do that at the moment because there's still a load of low fruit in football, in soccer.
Yeah. Wow. And all of them must be also heading at a very different kind of growth multiple, like the Amazon business and your e-com business. What would be at a very high level your split today between Amazon and your own e-com business?
So e-com's about 15% of the business, and then the rest, the remaining percent is
B2B.
basically split 50-50 really.
Okay.
Um, So it's changing slightly. E-com is becoming more important for us, like many brands. Again, I look at the Goliaths in my industry, Adidas and Nike. In the last
Yeah.
10 years, they've gone from 25% of their global business being direct to end consumer to over 50% now. And
Yeah.
we'll be no different. And again, that's not just happening in my industry, it's happening across the board. So, e-com is,
Yeah.
is growing very rapidly for us. We're getting better at it. And as I said, our social following is getting better. And I talked about these touch points. We're getting better at connecting with the end consumer at the right touch points to push them back to e-com to make the sale with us, as opposed to through our B2B or wholesale or marketplace partners.
Yeah. And why, in your opinion, Paul, this trend is likely to continue? Is it regarding the first party data because Amazons of the world don't really share a lot with you? Is it the margins? Is it the ease? What are those factors,
I
please?
think it's all of the above. Margin, of course, everybody wants higher margin.
Sure.
Um, Customer retention, to build the relationship direct with the end consumer, is incredibly important. If you're in a retail environment, um, you have the propensity for your product to be diluted, for the message to be diluted. You're mixed up with lots of other people as mixed
Absolutely.
messages.
Yeah.
If you're in my environment, a GloveGlu.com environment, it's my message.
It's me.
I
Yeah.
tell you, I can take you on the journey that I want to take you on. You might not even realize I'm taking you
Yeah.
on that journey.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think all of those elements are fundamental, and actually, then the value that it creates for that business. You know, if I'm exiting my business in 10 years' time, let's say, if I've got a database of X hundreds of thousands of
Yeah. Yeah.
goalkeepers,
Yeah.
footballers around the world, there's an intrinsic value in that
Absolutely.
that is way more than me saying, "Hey, I've got whatever 1,000 wholesale customers around the world."
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's so nice that the way you put it out there, Paul, because you are one of the most early adopters of the whole e-com thing that I've ever known now,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Thanks for reminding me.
and I'm so glad that the kind of things that you've been doing, the kind of strategies that you've been adopting, have been really playing out, and we can all see the way it's heading, which is a really nice thing. I'm Yeah. I was just going to say that uh, I've also seen you working a lot on the community side of things.
Yeah.
Right. I know you're a podcaster yourself, and you're also getting into the whole football coaching, etc. Um, why and how or brand should even consider doing this?
So I think the trend that is happening at the moment, the the end consumer has an appetite for real, genuine businesses. And to demonstrate that, one of the most powerful ways of doing that is for the end consumer to connect with the brand owner, the brand founder, the CEO, call it what you will. And what's the best way to do that is through community. LinkedIn for me is a great way to do that. And if you look at how the LinkedIn platform in particular is changing and evolving, it's it's becoming a platform that's attracting my kids. So my eldest is 19, he's in his first year at university. Even he recognizes now he needs to have a LinkedIn profile as he moves through university and starts to graduate, because that's where we go as employers, but that's also where the business community is going. But also, more interestingly, the the general end consumer is very much involved in this LinkedIn platform. So if I can, if and if I can, through LinkedIn, through podcasts, through being on stage, through speaking at events and conferences. If people can see me and understand me and my values and what I'm trying to do with GloveGlu as a business, I think if there's an easier way, it's easier for them to directly connect with us as a brand. And I
Mm,
think there are some people out there that are doing some great stuff in and around social media, some founders and some CEOs that are really driving that message
mm,
home.
mm,
And I think it's at its infancy. I think within 3 to 5 years' time, the way that LinkedIn as a platform
mm,
is evolving, it will be perceived as a very different social media platform than it is now. So
mm.
I'm spending time building my personal brand
Yeah,
to be at that point in 4 or 5 years' time, so that my personal brand has a standing and has an affection and has a following in the way that my own brand, GloveGlu, as a business has.
wow.
As I say, I just see that becoming more and more important.
Mm,
Some people are uncomfortable doing that, and maybe maybe you have to push the boundaries
yeah,
to do that.
yeah,
But I want to know the story. I want to know more about this brand that I'm about to transact
mhm,
with and this product range I'm going to buy. That's a great idea. How did that come about? Where's it come from? What's the
yeah,
story? Oh, that's
mm,
brilliant. We, at the end of the day, as a brand and as a brand owner, we're storytellers. I'm a storyteller. And if
mhm,
people like your story, then they want to hear, tell me more stories.
yeah,
What are those new stories? Well, it's new products.
yeah.
And I think so that for me, the whole community piece um, is being a storyteller.
Very, very beautifully said, Paul. No, thank you. I think that's so nicely summarized and laid out, that dummies like me should be also able to follow that very nicely. But I'm also able to see through the way you see that building brands is very important. Product is one part of it, but the brand comes with the community, right? You're nothing without the community, and for them, the connection that you form is at a very different level today, right?
We are incredibly blessed and lucky. And one of the advantages of being in a niche, and particularly in our niche,
Yeah,
is our community is the goalkeeping community.
yeah,
And it's very easy for us to find said community.
yeah,
If you're a brand that's selling into a much broader customer base,
yeah,
it becomes a lot harder. And therefore, everything that you're doing in and around building brand and personal brand arguably becomes more important to try and find where is the community.
yeah.
So as I say, we do have an advantage. We know that our core end user is a goalkeeper. Now, I'll park that for 1 second,
Yeah,
because also our core end consumer is granny and granddad and mum and dad and uncle and aunt and so on and so
absolutely.
forth,
Yeah, yeah,
because there's a
yeah,
big gifting side to our business, gifting to said
yeah,
goalkeeper. So one of the challenges is we can find the goalkeepers. How do we find the mums and dads and the uncles and aunts and the wives and the husbands and whatever of these goalkeepers? Because that's ultimately where the real gold is, because they're probably the ones that are spending even more on said goalkeepers, because they're gifting them whatever it is, gloves or accessories or so on and so forth.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and uh, I just like to summarize that in a very different way. Is that's what you get when you know your customer properly, right? Is to understand who's buying, what is the need that you're solving, how do you go and perceive the value of the product that you're selling, etc. So very, very nicely done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Paul, no doubt that you're a podcaster, you're a content creator yourself, because I just didn't realize it's about 45 minutes, but I'm really enjoying this conversation. So I'm going to break my golden rule and go a little bit for a few more minutes there. So a couple of more questions, Paul. One is, anybody who's starting out in e-com now, right? It's a crowded market. It's an omni-channel driven market. It's a very, very community and Instagram first market. what would be your three pieces of advice for them, please?
I think the good news for you is that it's not expensive. So with a Shopify platform, you can create a website. So
Mm.
remember,
Yeah, no.
half an hour ago we were talking about the business that I was involved in that
150K.
that was charging 150K for a website.
Yeah, yeah,
Now what are you, 20 quid a month, let's
yeah,
say, whatever the cost is. So
yeah,
that's the great news.
yeah,
It is not difficult
yeah,
to create a website,
yeah.
arguably by yourself. There are plenty of tutorial videos, YouTube videos, whatever out there that will help you get
Impressive.
something off the ground. So that point one, don't be scared about building the website. Point two, in fact, this is probably point one. We all know how important social is,
Yeah.
but just be real. Just be across the channels. Instagram is harder to scale rapidly these days. TikTok, there are still rapid scale opportunities within TikTok. Um, but it's moving towards lives and more long form content.
Yeah.
YouTube, there are still opportunities to rapidly scale YouTube, both from a short form and to a lesser extent, long form content. So the golden rule. So first and foremost, you've got to be on those platforms. And secondly, you've got to be persistent, consistent, patient. You've got to regularly post on those platforms, whatever your timetable can afford. We're daily. If you
Yeah.
can't do it daily, do it twice daily, but make sure you do it every other day
Yeah.
or every 3 days or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And don't be disappointed if your first 5, 10, 50, 500 posts don't trend.
Yeah.
You've just got to be consistent,
Yeah.
persistent, patient. So build your website, do your socials, and then, as I said, I think look at the marketplace that you are selling in. What is your USP? What's your point of difference?
Mm.
What can you bring to the market that is going to solve a problem
Mm.
for
Mm.
the consumer? Whatever that problem is. They want cheap clothes, or they want a spray to make their goalkeeping gloves grippy, or whatever the problem is. If you can solve the problem
Yeah. Solve the
and
problem.
you can tell them how you're solving the problem through your social media, and you can tell them how you solve the problem when they get to the website, and you can give them a really clear journey to that product, you have a fighting chance.
Mm.
um, my fourth, can I go more than
No, no,
three?
please. These are gold nuggets, Paul. Please go.
I so I have two boys, 19 and
Yeah.
17, and my 17-year-old occasionally um, has the quick fix. Oh, dad, there's a kid at work, and he's making a fortune from drop shipping.
Yeah.
Is he really, or
Or he's
is he sort of playing with drop shipping? And actually, when you look at it, it's not really happening. So I guess it's like a number of things like that. That don't always believe, if you're on social, and I consume it and love it. Don't always believe everything that you're going to see is necessarily going to deliver that overnight success. I don't believe in overnight success. There are no shortcuts. There's no easy way to build an ecom business. Whatever you do, you might get super, super, super lucky and find something that suddenly just explodes.
yeah.
It's very rare. But so you just got to make sure you're continuing to be committed and drive it. As I said, there's no shortcuts. No shortcuts in life. There's no shortcuts in building an ecom business.
Very nice. No, thank you. I think the first 3 points were pretty good. The cherry on the cake was the fourth one, because this is very, very rare and not a lot of people think about it in that respect. Is not everything that you're watching or reading or listening to is actually real. You gotta put your own filter and understand, put in the common sense to really, cut the noise out. All right. And that's
Hundred
very
percent.
important.
100%.
Yeah. And the last one question, Paul, brace yourself. It's the toughest one that I ask. Is you have to share something with us that you've never told anybody. So it can be a funny
So
story,
this this
an
this this
incident, or
this,
something like that, or
this is a hard one now, because I I had the same question on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and
Oh,
so maybe I've sort of already. The problem is I've now already shared this in the public domain, so I can't share
wow.
that one.
Somebody else asked this question. That means I need to change my question,
You need to change the question. Yeah,
or
I
the
had
other
that.
person is watching my podcast. Okay, fine. That'll make it three of us. Okay.
Let's go with the latter. They thought, oh, this is yeah, Shitank's got this really great last question that he asks all his guests.
Uh,
One thing that I've never told anybody, I'm not sure whether my wife and my kids are listening. Um, I am gonna share this. So I talked about my sports background,
yeah.
and what am I now? I'm 54. So at 14 years old, I my chosen sport was pole vaulting,
Wow.
and as you can imagine, there aren't many pole vaulters in, and there still
Yeah.
aren't many pole vaulters in the wood. It was a pretty cool thing to do, and I got to become the sixth best pole vaulter in the UK at 14. So,
Wow.
so maybe that underlines the whole sports story. And uh, I was going to say this my kids would say this is a dad joke, but hey, it's all about reaching for new heights.
I do hope they watch this, and this takes your sport thing into a very different dimension all the way, Paul. We were talking about when you were 24 and how you started, and the whole sports inclination, but now this is all incepted when you were 14 years. Takes it kind of in a very,
Exactly
very
that.
different thing.
Exactly that.
But I am so grateful and thankful for your time, Paul. I think I got a lot of insights and a lot of things the way you've been building this entire business. And I can see it's destined to go even more greater heights. All the best for that. And we're going to keep on watching out the space for more and more cool content from you as well. And thank you for the community. Look forward to having you sometime again soon.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. If any of your listeners want to follow this up and ask any questions, then they'll find me on LinkedIn, Paul Sherratt, GloveGlu, no E on the end, so GLOVEGLU, gloveglu.com. So they can find me, they can reach out. As we've said in the podcast, I'm more than happy to share some of my knowledge. I've thoroughly enjoyed having a chat with you. Hopefully, you've got something out of it, and your listeners have got something out of it. So maybe we should do it again sometime in the future.
Absolutely, Paul. Thank you so much.
Thanks.